Welcome back, everyone. So the last couple of days, I was kind of thinking it might be cool to come up with an Easter-related woodworking project. And the one thing that kind of stood out to me was wooden eggs. However, I don't have a lathe, but it got me thinking, could I make a wooden egg without a lathe? So I'm going to run you through the process of what I did to make this egg without a lathe, and it's actually pretty easy. So let's start with the wood that I'm using. I ended up using reclaimed lumber, which is pretty common for me. These are 2x2s that I ripped out of a 2x4, and they measure 1.5 inches on all sides. Now, if I can give you one tip when you're selecting the wood that you're using, try to select something that has a nice grain pattern. I chose this wood because I really like the grain pattern in it, and I think it's going to look really good in the end product. Alright, so once you got your 2x2 selected, you're going to be cutting them into blocks that are 2¼ inches long. I went with 4, but you can go with as many or as little as you want. And these blocks are going to be your blanks for the egg. Pretty self-explanatory. Now you're going to start by drilling holes through the center of the blocks, only about 1 inch deep. And these holes are going to be the same size as whatever nails you have laying around. In my case, I'm using these 2¼ inch common framing nails, and I have a drill bit that is the exact same size as this nail. We want a nice tight fit because we're going to be gluing those nails into those holes, and we don't want too much of a gap. You'll see what I mean later on. So just mark the center of these blocks by drawing an X. Now if you don't have a drill press, this might be a little bit tricky, but I think you could probably do it with a handheld drill as well. As long as your nails are perfectly vertical, you should be good to go. But it's not always easy. I did make a mistake on this one. You can see it's going way off, even with the drill press. Sometimes the drill has a tendency to follow the hard grain, and there's really nothing you can do about that. So I made another one. Now don't put these nails into your hole quite yet. The next part, actually, we're going to be using this template, and these are going to be available on my Patreon, or you could draw your own egg, I suppose. But believe it or not, there's actually a whole thing about geometrically correct eggs. And I definitely spent a little too much time learning about the perfect egg. But in the end, I did get a pretty nice egg, so there you go. Anyways, you're going to be cutting these out and simply gluing them on one of the faces. Make sure the bottom of the egg is on the side that you drilled the hole. And now, you're ready to cut these out on a bandsaw. You can also use a scroll saw for this, that's not a problem. And the goal here is just to get a bunch of extra meat off this wood. And once you got your egg shape cut out, now we're going to glue those nails into that hole. And for this I'm just using 5-minute epoxy, and I like to buy this stuff from the dollar store. I always have it lying around and I'm always using it. Super handy to have. Now before you glue it in, remember to sand your nail, just to scuff it up a little bit so the glue adheres to it really well. I didn't do that here, and you'll see later on, that was a problem. So I just let that dry for about 10 minutes. I know it says 5-minute epoxy, but it's usually like 10 to 15. Then you just clip the end of that nail off with some pliers. And once that's done, you are ready to stick it in your drill. And I decided to test this thing out just to see how much power it could handle. Let's take a look. I went maximum speed with that, and I felt no wobble, no vibration, no nothing. And that just means I got that nail nice and centered there. And I think we're set to go. Now you probably already figured out, my drill is my lathe. But I wanted to come up with a quick and simple setup. No jigs required, just get that nail into that block and start working on your egg. So what I settled for was just this basic steel strapping that you can get from pretty much anywhere, and just screwed my drill to my workbench. And as you can see, it is rock solid. And to keep the drill on, so I don't have to use my hand to turn it on, I'm just going to use a clamp to squeeze down on the switch. Easy peasy. And now for the fun part, actually making the egg. So my first thought and my original plan was to just use old sanding belts, and I figured that since the drill would be spinning so fast, I could quickly sand this thing down. However, that took a little longer than expected.
Well, apparently this might take a while.
After about 3 minutes, this is as far as I got. But I had a plan B.
So now I'm thinking I should probably just use this thing. It's going to take a lot more meat off a lot quicker. And, Huh. Okay. Guess I should have sanded that nail before I epoxied it in there. Okay. Let me reglue this. And then we're going to try using this. I didn't expect that. All right. So I sanded the nail down and I added a few drops of super glue. And looks like we are good to go. Hopefully that doesn't come loose again. All right, I'm all suited up. I've got my safety equipment here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so that's been about 3.5 minutes. Still taking longer than expected, but I think we will succeed in the end. Okay, so another couple minutes there, and making a little bit more progress. I'm actually running the drill a little bit slower and putting a little bit more pressure on the grinder. And that seems to be working pretty good. So let's go ahead and finish this up here.
So being the first egg I ever made, there were a few hiccups. But once I got the hang of using the angle grinder with the drill, it actually worked pretty good. I eventually got a nice round surface on this egg, and once I did, I was able to switch to hand sanding again. I started with 120 grit, then 150, and this is what it looked like after that. It was already looking pretty darn good.
So that's looking pretty good here. I'm just going to need to work in here a little bit, and then do a finer grit. I think I'm at 150 right now, just with some leftover sandpaper here. But there's some really nice grain patterns in there. Very cool, very cool. I mean, if you don't have a lathe, you got to do something, right? You got to get creative sometimes.
But then I bumped it up to 220, 320, and then 800 grit. I didn't have anything else between 320 and 800, so I probably would have stepped it up a little bit slower than that. But it still worked out, and this is what it looked like after 800 grit. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this looks pretty darn good. I really found this grain quite interesting. I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, but this is just cedar, and I've never seen such pronounced grain like this. But I've also never really sanded cedar this much before, so there you go. I think it looks pretty darn cool. All right, so I think I know what you guys are wondering now. What am I going to do with this nail? Well, we're going to cut it off. But before that, I wanted to protect my egg. So I wrapped it with a bunch of paper towel and masking tape, and I just took the hacksaw at it and cut it off. Now, I understand if some of you were maybe a little skeptical at first about the nail being in the egg, but I was pretty confident that this would work because I used nails in a different project, and that was for this handle. I used the nails as pins, and I was able to sand them down pretty smoothly, so I figured I could probably do the same thing for this egg project. And to do that, all I have to do is file the nail down a little bit with this file. And then start sanding it down. I mean, this part was actually one of the easiest steps, to be honest with you. It only took a few minutes, and there you go. A nice smooth nail in your egg. Now keep watching till the end, because this nail can actually come in handy for something else. But as you can see, it's nice and round. The shape of the egg isn't deformed at all. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. So final thoughts on this egg. I think it looks amazing. I'm so happy I went with the cedar with this nice grain because I was actually thinking about using a piece of pine, and I think I would have been really disappointed in the final product. So that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give for this project. Use a really nice piece of wood that you're going to be happy with because your egg's going to look 10 times better. Now you probably noticed I only have one egg here, but I had 4 blanks. That's because it did take a little longer than expected, and I'm on a little bit of a time crunch. I should have started this project earlier, but it was a last minute decision I made 2 days ago, and I've been cramming for the last 2 days. But would I do this again? 100% yes. I have no problem using a drill as a lathe, especially because I just don't have room for a lathe in my garage right now. But I will admit, it would be pretty darn nice to have one. But hey, in a pinch, this works. Now this nail is kind of neat because I don't know why, but I had a magnet laying around. I stuck it to my ruler, and then I stuck my egg on top of it, and boom, it stands straight up and down. Now this is kind of cool because you could put a magnet in pretty much anything and be able to display your egg standing straight up and down, but then still be able to remove it and hold it in your hand. There is something nice about holding it in your hand. I don't know what it is. It's kind of weird, but it feels really good in the hand. So there you go. I really enjoyed this project. I hope you guys try it out. You still have a few more days before Easter. It might make a great long weekend project for you. Don't forget to check out my Patreon for those templates if you need them. And thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it.